Hi guys, finishing up some more of our video here. So let me just get some stuff set. There we go. All right, so we're in the part now that is not using Desmos. So we'll use what we can here and our math skills to get ourselves ready. One thing that you might want to include is an example of how to write something in standard form, especially when we're given it in factored form like we have here. Remember, factored form uses the parentheses, and that's telling us that we need to do some more multiplication to make it happen. When we do these, you can either use distributive property, or you can set up the Punnett square, the kind of grid that we were using to multiply. So I like using the grid. I'm going to go ahead and use the grid that we have. One whole factor goes down the side. So there's the x and the plus 5. And then the other factor is going to go across the top, the x and the plus 3. Now I like to take those numbers and those signs with me so that I make sure I'm doing everything exactly right. And then we're going to multiply to fill each of those boxes. So in this box, I'm multiplying x times x, and I'm going to write x squared because that's what happens when I multiply those two together. My next one is going to multiply this x times 3. So 3 times x is 3x, and it's a positive 3, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a positive 3 so I remember that it's a positive 3x. Now I need to multiply the top with the bottom row here. So x times a positive 5 is a positive 5x, and a positive 5 times a positive 3, positive times positive is positive, 5 times 3 is 15. Now I'm going to try to combine like terms. There is only one box that has x squared in it, so that is my x squared term. There are two boxes that are both with x's, and so I need to add these together. Okay, so remember we're going to multiply to fill the boxes, add to get out. 3x plus 5 more x's is a positive 8x. And then last but not least, a plus 15. Remember, standard form tells you very quickly what the y-intercept is. All right, let's practice another one. This one is saying we're going to do x minus 9 times x minus 9. That's what something squared means. It's the same number times itself. So let's set up another grid. Make this one a little bit smaller so I can write my answer down below. X minus 9, again, I'm taking that sign with me, and the other factor, x minus 9. Multiply to fill the boxes. X times x, x squared. X times a negative 9, negative 9x. Negative 9 times an x, negative 9x. And a negative 9 times a negative 9, negative times negative is a positive. 9 times 9 is 81. Now, I'm not done just by filling the boxes. I have to write my final answer. It asks me to write it in standard form. This is not standard form, so make sure you're taking it back out of the boxes. There's the x squared. I have negative 9x's, and I'm going to subtract 9 more away. That's negative 18x. And I have a plus 81 that has to get tacked on to the end. There's my answer. 2x plus 3, that's one factor. X minus 5, that's the other factor. Let's multiply it together. 2x times another x is a 2x squared. 2x times a negative 5. Well, 2 times a negative 5 is a negative 10. And there is one x that's being multiplied here. So it's these two to fill this box. All right, these two to fill this bottom box. 3 times x is a positive 3x. 3 times a negative 5. Positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 5 is 15. So standard form, 2x squared. Negative 10x plus 3x. Remember, you can always write each of those boxes out if you like to see it this way, and then combine those like terms. Okay, that's fine if you do it that way too. Some people like it. 2x squared. Negative 10 plus 3 is a negative 7. Oops, and that's a minus 15. Okay, I'll go ahead and write that. Plus a negative 15. Means the same thing. Adding a negative and subtracting, same thing. Last but not least, x plus 7 times x minus 7. Here's my x plus 7. Here's my x minus 7. Multiply to fill. X squared, negative 7x, positive 7x, negative 49. Remember, there's no shame in using a calculator. Sometimes I do too. So if you need to use any calculator for that multiplication, do it. If you need to use a calculator for addition and subtraction, do it. The important part is to get the right answer. If I have 7 positive x's and I take all 7 of those x's away, I have 0x in the middle. We don't have to write it, but I'm totally okay if you do. So x squared minus 49 is our final answer. Now just a couple more questions here. On this front side, we have a couple equations, and it's asking us about the vertex, and then it's asking if it's a maximum or a minimum. So I'm going to remind you about how we can tell that. First of all, what's inside the parentheses with the x helps us know the x coordinate. We have to change the sign. So if it's a plus 3, we're going to have an x coordinate at negative 3. Change the sign if it's inside the parentheses. The y coordinate is from what's outside and after at the very end, as long as it's written here in vertex form like this, any set of parentheses squared plus some kind of number. This is what vertex form looks like, and it's got numbers here in these places. That number goes directly for the y coordinate, so our vertex is happening at negative 3, 5. I know that this vertex is a minimum, and I can tell because this is an upward opening parabola. It doesn't have anything negative to make it a real downer of a graph. It's a super positive graph. It's a positive number out in front of the parentheses. And so this vertex is happening right there at the bottom, so it's a minimum. In contrast, this negative that's in front here is making it a real downer of a graph. It's pointing down on both sides. That means our vertex, which is the point where that changes direction here, that negative tells us that the vertex is a maximum. This vertex happens the opposite of negative 4, which is positive 4. And we take this number exactly, and that is our y coordinate at 4, 1. Last but not least, I see another negative symbol out front. That's going to have a downer of a graph. That means the vertex happens at the highest point of the graph. It is a maximum. Maybe you want to think about your vertex just like we solve in factored form to find x-intercepts. We have to change that sign only when it's an x equals in parentheses like that. So there's that negative 5 for our vertex. And this one is a minus 2, so it's a negative 2 for the y coordinate. Takes that number directly. All right, keep on working, keep on solving. Finish off that next page. Let's see where you come up with next.